Hello, I'm Sean Richards of Not a Yes Man's Economics. What I want to talk about today is interest rates. In particular, there's beginning, spread, and now we might call sustainability or time that it's persisted of negative interest rates. Now, just to give you an idea of the situation, we can learn a bit, I think, from the situation in Switzerland. That introduced a negative interest rate of minus 0.75%. Back in January 2015, what was it doing there? It had issues with the Swiss franc being strong. But my point here is, although that arrived from the foreign exchange market in particular circumstances, it's yet to go away. We're more than 4 years up the road. Another alternative of where these things can come from is in the euro area. The European Central Bank, again back a few years ago, introduced a negative interest rate, which it then lowered. And now we see the deposit rate is minus 0.4%. Except again, you see, that's my point. It's still there. If we look forwards and we see a situation whereby the economic outlook's weak, it doesn't look like it's going to go away anytime soon. Might not be for quite a while. And the longer these things bed in, we've seen in the credit crunch era, the more they then tend to remain. For example, as someone replied to me the other day on social media, how is the emergency programme carrying on? Because of course we're 10 years up the road and yet we need so many of these things apparently. A further point to this, if we look at the situation with negative interest rates, is its impact. Who actually really gains from them? This is a big issue, I think. Ironically, the central bank does itself because it rakes the money in. Now that's actually, of course, a deduction from the economy rather than a gain. But if we just stick with my example, I think last year the Swiss National Bank made a bit more than 2 billion Swiss francs from it. Talk of the European Central Bank making a bit more than 7 billion euros. So you see there's a big drain here. Where in general do they take it from? The banks? Well, I'm sure most of you are already thinking that the banks will then take it from us in some form or another. If we widen this issue out though and look at countries that say now don't have negative interest rates, might they go there? Well, viewers in the United States might like to note that their central bank, the Federal Reserve, is mentioned at times, maybe in the next downturn it needs to be ready for that. It, like the UK, stayed just away from going into negative interest rates last time. Why did they do that? Well, I can speak for my own country, the UK, which was that they were very afraid of particular parts of the financial system. There was a mortgage in the UK that I can clearly remember from the Cheltenham and Gloucester Building Society that actually went negative when bank rate in the UK went to 0.5% because its spread below it was more than that. And that created a lot of concern. It might be hard to believe in the modern information technology and communications era, but people were afraid this would blow up the bank system. And the actual owner, Lloyds Bank, if I recall correctly, actually got round this by not recording the negative interest rate, but by knocking a bit off people's mortgages at the end of the year. So this again highlights another issue here, which is what good do they do? What particular damage they do to the banking system, which of course has its own problems. If we spread this out now, and say we zero in again on the United States, we find that there's a few issues here. For example, the President Trump talking about a restarting of the US quantitative easing program where the central bank buys bonds. Where would there be a gain from him? It would make borrowing cheaper and bring yields down. But then we're back on the downwards pressure again. More slowing of the economy, more interest rate cuts. Well, if they were such a triumph, why do we need more of them? And this is the fundamental issue here. So I wouldn't be so sure, even in countries where we haven't seen it, like the United States or the UK, that we might not be seeing negative interest rates at some time in the future. Thank you.